Hello guys, my name is Koto and this is going to be the beginning episode of my Let's Play Everquest. I'm going to create a new toon and I'm going to try and do a little bit of leveling and we'll just see how it goes and if I can actually get this done or make something that's a decent product. Okay, so to start, let's go through the races. EverQuest was made back in 1999. These are the updated Shadows of Luckland model, which was the third expansion, and that was back in 2003. So these character models are 2003. So if they look a little outdated to you, it's because they are. But I'd say all in all, they're a little bit more stylistic and less realistic. And so if you look at it at that standpoint, it's not bad. First race we got here is Barbarians, big old guys. They're neutral, good. Dark Elves are evil. We got Dwarfs, they're good. Erudites, Gnomes, Half-Elves, Halflings, High Elves, Humans, Ixars, Ogres, Troll, Bashir, Wood Elf, Froglot, and Draken. And I decided I was going to pick a Draken because they actually have the newest models. Their models came out in probably about 2006, something like that. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I do like the way they look. And I'm going to pick a guy. This is what the females look like here. I'll go back through these. Sorry, I kind of got the hiccups and my nose is stopped up. So, see if I can work with the audio a little bit and try and filter out some of these excess noises I'm making. Alright, so there we go. And now for classes, we got Bard. Bard is a melee DPS class. They do very little DPS, though. It's kind of laughable. But, you know, you get enough gear on them. They can do something. The biggest thing, though, is they're good pulling, good crowd control, and lots of support, especially for other melee DPS classes. Then we got Beast Lords, which, here, I'll click on one of these, do Beast Lords. Beast Lords are a melee DPS class with a very beefy pet. They have lots of support for melee DPS groups as well. They can really boost the DPS of a melee DPS group. They also really good soloing class, so if you like the melee and you like to solo and you want options, this is a good starting class. Then we got Berserkers, which is a melee DPS class. Their specialty is burst damage. You're not going to see that in the beginning of the game, but you get down to end game, they are the burst DPS class. They use the big old two-handed axe, and they'll start to fall off the parse about 4 minutes. So, you know, raid fights do go on for a long time, and they have their place, and they eat up endurance, which is your resource for this class, and endurance is really hard to get back to. So now they have the limitations, but if you like that burst DPS, that's the class for you. Then we got Cleric. Cleric is your straight up healing class. They got good hit point buffs and AC buffs, and they heal. Group heal, single target heal, they got the best of that. We got Druids who got okay group heals, but their strong point is their single target heals. They're definitely next best of the priest classes as far as healing goes, and they actually pretty decent solars, and they have pretty good range DPS as well. And you get them pretty good, well geared, and these druids will outparse some of the other classes, and it will shock you. But they're also one of the few classes that can port around too. It's just druids and wizards that can port. So if you want to port around, that definitely makes traveling faster. They got some run speed buffs, which is not so important now with mounts, but you know. Then we got Enchanters, which is a range DPS class. Their primary role is caster support buffs and crowd control, and they are good poolers. But like bards, their range DPS is laughable compared to the other classes, but they're fun to play. Oh, and they have one way that they can solo really well, and that's charming. Bards can do it as well. Charm kiting, it's not easy to do, but they can get it done doing that. And I've got mages, which is a range DPS class. They're pretty strong. They rely heavily on their pet, which is the beefiest pet. They have the highest DPS pet, which is their water pet. They have their highest tanking pet, which can out-tank warriors in some situations. Most warriors that aren't raid geared, for sure. And then they have, air pet, which is useless, and fire pet, which has its roles. It's a range DPS pet. Well, anyways, so they're a good solo class, and they do really good range DPS. Then we got monks. They are a sustained DPS, but they have some good burst as well. They have a lot more survivability than any of the other straight-up melee DPS classes. And they have some good pooling and crowd control tools as well. Then we got necromancers. They're range DPS class. They're up there as far as their total output. Sustained for sure. And they do a lot of their damage from damage over time spells. They also have some life-stealing abilities which help in soloing. And they have a good pet. It's not the best pet of the three major pet classes, which is Beast Lord, Mage, and Necromancer. But it's a decent pet, and they definitely have the most options when it comes to soloing. And that's the one I'm going to pick for this level up series, is a Necro. Now we got Paladin, which is a cross between a cleric and a warrior. They're a tank that can heal. They have a good buff. They don't do hardly any DPS unless you get them against some undead, and then they might do some okay DPS. But yeah, they're paladins. They're hard to sell, but you need at least one of them around, and there's not many paladins. Unlike rangers, there is a ton of rangers in the game. Like paladins, they have a good buff, but they don't have much other uses than that. When you DPS on a ranger, you gotta go in melee and burn your melee cooldowns, and then pop out into range, and then pop your range cooldowns. And that's how you maximize your DPS as a ranger on a raid. As far as soloing, they have some options. I mean, they've been nerfed a little bit. Not too recently, they were a pretty good solo class and a power leveling class because they could headshot and they could just chew through mobs. But that's been done away with. Now we got rogues. Rogues are the sustained DPS, melee DPS class. They have stealth, as you might imagine, and they can burn 9 out of 10 minutes on a raid. And so you get a fight over 10 minutes, they're the class that's going to top the parse. They'll even beat out wizards. Then we got Shadow Knights. They're one of the tanking class, one of the 3 tanking classes. They're kind of a hybrid between a warrior and a necromancer. They have some good pooling skills. They can feign death. They have the best AE aggro of the three tanking classes. So a lot of raid mechanics. You get a bunch of ads, especially ads that need to be kited. I mean, that's the class you need for that. And they do have some decent tanking skills, life taps. I mean, they can heal themselves for a lot with their life taps. It's a good class, but when it comes to tanking in a raid, you're going to end up with a warrior. And then we got shamans. Shamans. These are the weakest, in my opinion, of the 3 healing classes. They have a slow. That's their big benefit to the group. And they have really good DPS, melee DPS support buffs. They definitely have to have shamans around. Usually have shamans in the melee DPS groups on raids, healing them, and likewise for druids and the caster DPS groups, because druids have an aura that helps caster DPS minor. Anyways, then we got shamans. They are really limited in soloing. They have dots. They do their damage by dots. It's kind of weak. Then we got warrior. This is the straight up tanking class. When it comes to in-game raids, the big mobs, these are what you have to have. You have to have warriors on them. And so, you need a warriors around, and there's not many of them in the game. And they're really hard to level up. And gear up to be suitable. But when you get there, you're the star of the raid. So that's that class. And then you got wizards, which are generally the top of the DPS. They're in range, so they are pretty easy to play, and their rotation is pretty simple. They can become mana starved, and that can be an issue. But other than that, oh, and they have ports like I mentioned earlier. So they're somewhat limited on their soloing. They got one or two methods, but it basically requires that the mob not be able to summon. Summoning is when the mob, you do damage to it and the mob pulls you to it and starts whacking onto you. And every time you run away, it'll summon you back to it. So that'll really limit their kiting ability. Some other things that I mentioned, didn't mention rather, was rogues. They're not so great at soloing. Monks, I'm sure they can solo, but like I said, they're not the best. Clerics are very hard to do solo. Basically impossible. But like I said, I'm going to pick the necromancer. Now we gotta decide the appearance. And we get two options as a necromancer for the Drakens, which is the heritage, the red and the black. I'm just going to go with the black. And we got face, I don't know, just pick a young looking one, there we go. Hair, I'm going to go bald. Yep. Hair color, that won't matter. So pick some eyes, I like green eyes. Yep, I like those eyes. Alright, now facial hair. I like that facial hair. Facial hair color, I like it there. I like it dark like that. That looks good. Alright, now tattoos. I like that tattoo, yeah. Alright, now details. There's a little horns right here. And I like that one. Alright, there we go. I got my necro. And then we just make... Then the next option over here is advanced. Honestly, don't mess with it. This is all just a relic from the original EverQuest. And they allocate these points automatically for you now, and they just really don't even matter even if you went in and allocated them differently. Now we got the tutorial, and you can click this tutorial button. I suggest not, unless you just really want to. I mean, check it out, but it can be confusing to get through the first couple of steps of it. And now pick a name. I'll pick cemetery. Spelled wrong intentionally. Don't rage on me. I don't think I have an option on any of this. Okay, yep. Alright, enter world. And now we're zoning in to the game. This game was pre-WoW. And WoW was seamless. You had a couple of zoning, like you'd ride a boat or you go from one continent to the other, you had to zone. But you could fly and walk in between areas without having to do this load screen. But EverQuest was before that, and they did not have that option. So every time you change zones or come into the game, you got to zone. Destroy this book. Here we go. I'll zoom out. Look at my character. Alright, so free-to-play accounts. How do you like my setup? Yeah, here we got, I can put my spell bar over here. Got a couple of hot button bars to overflow to. This is just how I like to do my setup. This is the mercenary window. Basically later when we get into town, we can hire a mercenary, and that's a NPC that follows you around. If you played Star Wars, it's not quite like that, but it's close. It just follows you around and helps you solo. Here's got my overflow chat, and this is the main chat. Here's my group health bars. This is my health bar. Target's health bar will go right here. And then target of target's health bar. This is the effects window. This is where buffs go. Over here we got songs. This is short-term buffs. To move your buttons around, you gotta press down and hold them, and then drop them where you want them. And I don't want these things here, so I'm just going to pick them up and drop them into nowhere. And melee attack, I'm a necromancer. I will not be meleeing. Some classes, like monks, you'll have to go over here and pick some skills out. Mend, kick, feign death, some of that stuff will be in here. None of these skills are particularly useful. Open, inspect, you can use by just doing /open/inspect. So you don't have to mess with this. Bind wound, that's kind of a relic skill, but you know. And there we go. In order to leave the game, you have to click that obvious camp exit, and it takes you 30 seconds in most places. A couple of zones are instant camp. Plane of knowledge for one. Here we go, our first couple of spells. I got minor shielding, small little hit point buff. See our hit points changed from 30 to 36. That's a big deal here. Got our bags. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's junk. And oh yeah, so one thing, all free-to-play accounts, we will have a couple of options in here. And one of those options is the Gift of Legacy Lost. Most people come with this. It's all random whether your account gets it or not. And hopefully you get it because it's actually quite useful for starting out new characters. And you get a bag with a couple of things in it like this. You just right click and claim them. So we got some arms. We got some pants. Hoping for a robe. A robe would be nice. And we got a robe. So look, now I'm dressed. I'm not a naked guy no more. And then we got a weapon now. Destroy that old dagger. And then this is just a clicky. It's got 5 charges of Gate to Knowledge. So that can be useful. I'm going to put that right there. And then we have here an experience pot. And then have movement speed pot. Movement speed, I think this one is, it doesn't say what it does, but I think it's only like 50%. It can be useful at those low levels, but so use them why. I really suggest using these pink ones early, like right now. There we go. Oh, it only lasts for 3 minutes. That's kind of a rip. But whatever. And then the experience pots, I'd say wait, save those for later on, definitely. Most experience, like I mentioned before, is not done through questing, so you have to grind mobs in a group situation preferably. And so when you get in a good group and you're killing lots of mobs and you're in a particularly hard level and you want to expedite that, pop them experience pots. And then there's a couple other event quests throughout the year. You can get a couple more of these. Another trick is you forgot their station, Sony store. Alright, we can go down here to potions, and we have a complimentary bottle of adventure, and you can just claim that right now, and it's free, as you can see. We have successfully purchased that, and then I'll just throw that in there. And this one is only 10%, not 50%, but it lasts for 4 hours. So that can be useful. Alright, here we are in the Crescent Reach City, and I'm just going to get us to this bank over here, which if you didn't know where that was, here's the elevator, there's the bank. That's probably not very helpful. Alright, so we're here in the bank. Right click on this and get another bag out of here. And let's see, what else? A couple other things you can do is change your face again if you didn't like the face you picked. You can dye your clothes. So if I wanted to dye it white and see the base color, that's what that base color looks like. Or like that. Or that. Looks kind of ugly. Maybe red looks good. Yeah, red doesn't look bad. See what black looks like. Yeah, black don't look bad either. So you can do that. I just canceled it. I don't have any dye. You have to get the reagents to do that, which you can buy off the bazaar, or you can look them up on one of the websites associated with Everquest. Get the recipe and figure that out. Trade skills and Everquest are kind of, whatever. Then we have our map. You can press M to open that up, I believe. I don't know. Anyways, that's what I rebounded to, was M. And this is what maps look like. They're all line drawings. And then you zoom in, you see your arrow, and it points the way you're pointing. We spawned over here, and we ran down here and into the bank. And now if I want to go level, I'm going to run out here and out here, and I'm going to level up in this area. But I'm going to call it for now and see how this turns out, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.